In the grand hall of a millionaire's mansion, a young maid suddenly collapsed. Her tray of fine china shattered, echoing across the marble walls. She was 6 months pregnant, her trembling hands instinctively holding her rounded belly. No one knew the truth she carried inside until that moment. When her employer rushed to her side, what she whispered would shake every life connected to her. A secret long hidden was about to turn their world upside down, forever. Edward Hayes, a wealthy businessman of 39, was in his office when the crash echoed through the mansion. Startled, he rushed down the grand staircase and froze at the sight before him. On the cold marble floor lay Anna Collins, the maid who had worked for his family for over 2 years. Her uniform was immaculate as always, but now it was wrinkled and stained by the spilled coffee that had soaked the expensive Persian rug. Her brown hair, usually tied in a neat bun, was loose and spread across the stone like a dark halo. Her hands clutched her swollen belly, 6 months along, even as she lay unconscious. Edward's heart raced as he knelt beside her, ignoring the fine suit that cost more than most people's monthly wages. He pressed his fingers to her wrist, relieved to feel a faint but steady pulse. Her skin was cold, her breathing shallow. Gently, he lifted her head onto a velvet cushion from the antique sofa, whispering her name with an urgency he had never felt toward any servant before. Slowly, Anna's eyelids fluttered. Her eyes opened, dark and unfocused, and then she recognized him. Embarrassed, she tried to sit up, muttering apologies about the broken china and the expensive rug. Edward stopped her gently, his firm hands steadying her shoulders. "Don't worry about that," he said softly, his voice far removed from the commanding tone he used in boardrooms. "Tell me, are you in pain?" Anna pressed her lips together. A sharp twinge ran across her side and she winced, clutching her stomach. She forced a weak smile. "Just tired, sir. It happens during pregnancy." But Edward wasn't convinced. He studied her pale face, her trembling hands, and the way she shielded her belly as if protecting something far more precious than she could admit. Edward's concern deepened as he studied Anna. For 2 years she had worked in silence, always punctual, always discreet, never revealing much of her private life. Yet now, lying before him, she seemed fragile, burdened by more than her failing strength. He offered to call a doctor, reaching for his phone. But suddenly Anna grabbed his wrist with surprising force. Her dark eyes widened in panic. "No, please. No, doctor," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Edward frowned. "Anna, you're pregnant and you just fainted. This is serious." Her fingers tightened. "I beg you, sir. No one must know." Her desperation silenced him. Edward slowly slipped the phone back into his pocket, confusion churning in his mind. Why would she fear help? Anna lowered her gaze, her hands moving protectively over her belly. Her lips quivered, and soon tears spilled down her cheeks. For a long moment, Edward said nothing. He had negotiated with the most ruthless businessmen, but never faced a silence so heavy, so filled with unspoken truth. Finally, her whisper broke it. "It's not just exhaustion, sir. There's something I've been hiding. Something about this child." Edward leaned closer, his voice gentle. "Then trust me. Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone." Her sobs grew louder. She twisted the gold ring on her finger again and again, as if it might protect her from her own confession. "My husband believes this baby is his," she said between tears. "But it isn't." The words hit Edward like a blow. He froze, staring at her pale, tear-stained face. The revelation was too heavy, too dangerous, and yet he could not dismiss it. Anna's voice faltered, but she pressed on. "He's a good man, sir. Honest, hard-working. He dreams of this child, speaks of names, makes plans for a future. And all the while, I know I'm living a lie." Edward inhaled sharply. His chest tightened as if the marble floor beneath him had vanished. "Then who?" His voice was strained. "Who is the father?" She shook her head violently. "I can't say. If I do, Everything will collapse. My marriage, his family, his reputation. Edward placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. Anna, the truth will surface whether you want it or not. Better it come from you than from whispers. Her breathing grew shallow. For a moment it seemed she would retreat into silence again, but then her voice emerged, faint and trembling. It was not love, sir, not even desire. It was manipulation. He is powerful, and I was vulnerable. Edward's eyes darkened. The puzzle was forming in his mind. Someone who holds authority over your husband? She nodded slowly, unable to meet his gaze. Someone respected in this city? His tone was firmer. Her tears confirmed it before her words did. The man who owns the company where my husband works. His employer, Carlos. Edward's blood ran cold. He knew the name well. A businessman with a flawless public image, admired in business circles. A man he had shaken hands with many times. To hear this confession now was like discovering a serpent hidden in a trusted garden. Anna sobbed into her hands. Please understand, sir. It happened when my husband was away. Carlos found ways to corner me. He said things, promised things, I was afraid. And then one night, I was too weak to resist. Edward clenched his fists but forced himself to remain calm. His voice softened again. Anna, you must stop blaming yourself. You were taken advantage of. A man in power used that power against you. She shook her head. I could have stopped it. I should have thought of my husband, of our vows, but now there is a child. Edward's heart ached at her words. The weight of her guilt was suffocating, but beneath it he sensed something deeper. Fear. Fear not only for her marriage, but for her very survival if the truth spread. Her next words confirmed it. He called me last night. He said if I ever speak of this, no one will believe me. I'm just a maid, he said. He is a man with wealth, with a perfect family. He warned me that if I try to expose him, he'll destroy me. Edward's jaw tightened. For the first time, Anna saw fire in his eyes, not directed at her, but at the man who had reduced her to this broken state. You will not face this alone, he said firmly. I swear it. I will help you, Anna. You and your child will not be abandoned. Her sobs slowed. She looked at him with fragile hope, as if his words had pulled her back from the edge of despair. For the first time that morning, she felt she was not utterly alone in her secret. Anna pressed her back against the cold marble wall, breathing unevenly. Edward remained close, his presence steady, his eyes sharp with both concern and determination. You must understand, sir, Anna whispered. Carlos is untouchable. He owns everything, his company, his reputation, even the loyalty of people in this city. If my husband ever discovers the truth, it will destroy him. And if Carlos feels threatened, he will crush me. Edward listened in silence, his mind turning with the precision of a strategist. He had built an empire by facing ruthless competitors, but this was different. This was not a deal to negotiate. This was a woman's life, and the life of her unborn child. He spoke softly. Anna, you've carried this alone for months. No one can bear such a burden without breaking. That is why you collapsed today. Her lips trembled. She wiped her tears with the corner of her sleeve. Every day I live a lie. Rodrigo believes he will soon be a father. He talks to the baby as if it is his own flesh and blood. And I smile, but inside, I am dying. What if he leaves me when the truth is revealed? What if I am left with nothing? Edward leaned closer, lowering his voice. Rodrigo loves you. I've seen the way he looks at you when he picks you up from the gate. He is a man of honor. The truth will hurt him, but lies will destroy him even more. He deserves honesty. Anna shook her head violently, covering her face. I cannot, sir. If he knows, he will hate me forever. Her sobs filled the hall again. Edward waited patiently until the storm of tears subsided, then spoke with careful calm. Then listen to me. Carlos believes you are weak. He thinks you will never fight back. That is why he dared to threaten you. But he underestimates what people can do when they are desperate to protect their children. Her hands instinctively covered her belly. She looked up at Edward, her eyes wide and fearful. Protect? How can I protect my child against a man like him? By standing with those who will not abandon you, Edward answered firmly. I have connections, lawyers, influence. If Carlos tries to silence you, he will face consequences. Anna's shoulders shook as she whispered, but the law is on his side. Everyone believes him. He is respected. I am no one. You are someone, Edward interrupted, his tone steady and commanding. You are a woman who works honestly. You are a mother carrying life. That alone gives you strength greater than his wealth. Anna stared at him, stunned by the conviction in his words. For a moment she dared to believe him. Edward continued, his voice low but resolute. We will prove the truth. There are ways. A test of blood can confirm paternity, either during pregnancy or after the child is born. He cannot deny science. Anna's eyes filled again, but this time with a fragile glimmer of hope. And if he refuses? If he denies everything? Then the law will compel him. I will make sure of it. His certainty was like a pillar for her trembling heart. She had lived in fear for months, but now, sitting in the shadow of his words, she felt something different. A flicker of courage. But even as hope flickered, doubt returned. And my husband, she whispered. What if he never forgives me? Edward exhaled slowly. That is the greatest risk you face, but secrets rot love from within. Rodrigo deserves truth, even if it hurts, and you deserve the chance to live free from fear. Anna closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. For months she had buried her anguish beneath forced smiles and quiet obedience. Now, the dam had broken, and the weight of her secret lay exposed between them. The silence stretched, broken only by the ticking of an antique clock on the wall. Then Anna spoke, her voice trembling but stronger than before. Carlos said I was nothing, that no one would ever believe me, that his word would crush mine. He said I should be grateful he even noticed me. Edward's jaw tightened, anger flaring in his green eyes. That is not gratitude. That is abuse. And I will not allow it to continue. Anna studied him, searching his face for any sign of doubt. But there was none. His expression was carved with determination. You mean it, she whispered. You would stand against him. I have faced men like him before, Edward said, his voice calm but fierce. Men who believe their power makes them untouchable. They always fall, Anna, always. Because power built on fear is never strong. For the first time she allowed herself to breathe deeply. The air felt lighter, though her body was still weak. Her hands rubbed her belly slowly, as though soothing the child within. Edward stood and offered his hand. You need rest. Not work, not silence. Rest. Come. Hesitant, Anna accepted. His grip was firm, yet careful as he helped her to her feet. She swayed, but his steady arm supported her. As they moved slowly toward the staircase, Anna's mind raced. Fear still lived within her, but it was no longer absolute. Edward's words had planted a seed of defiance, of survival, of hope. And though she did not yet know how the story would end, for the first time in months she believed it might not end in ruin. Edward guided Anna to a quiet sitting room at the back of the mansion. The morning sun filtered through tall curtains, painting the space in muted gold. He helped her onto a cushioned armchair, then sat across from her, his elbows on his knees, his eyes steady on hers. You must tell me everything, he said calmly. From the beginning. Only then can I help. Anna swallowed hard. Her fingers twisted the edge of her apron, her chest rising and falling quickly. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then, in a halting voice, she began. It happened 6 months ago, at the company's holiday gathering where Rodrigo works. My husband fell ill during the party. I took him home, then returned to help with cleanup as I had promised one of the wives. By then, only a few remained, Carlos among them. Her voice grew faint. He offered me a ride. I thought it was kindness, but he stopped at a bar instead. He drank more. He spoke of his unhappy marriage, how lonely he felt. I tried to listen politely, but he pressed closer. I had already drunk too much at the party. I was not thinking clearly. Edward's fists clenched, but he kept silent, allowing her to continue. When we left, he said he couldn't drive far, that we should rest first. We stopped at a roadside inn. I was afraid, confused. He promised it would be only a moment, but it wasn't. And later, when Rodrigo traveled for work, Carlos found reasons to summon me again, 3 times in all. I told myself I could stop it, that it would end. But each time I failed. And then, I was pregnant. Her eyes brimmed with tears. From that moment, I lived in terror. I told Rodrigo the baby was his. He was overjoyed. He talks about the future with such pride. And every time I look at him, I feel crushed beneath the lie. Edward leaned forward, voice firm but gentle. Anna, you were manipulated. That man used his power to corner you. This is not your shame alone. She shook her head, but I agreed. I went along. Doesn't that make me guilty? No, Edward said with certainty. Consent given under pressure, under fear, is no consent at all. He trapped you, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Anna's tears fell freely. Last night he called me. He said if I speak, no one will believe me, that I'm just a maid, and he is a respected man with wealth, a family, influence. He said he would ruin me if I ever told anyone. Edward's jaw tightened. That call pushed you to collapse this morning. The stress, the fear, it's too much for one heart to bear. Anna nodded weakly. Yes. My body gave out before my spirit did. Edward's eyes darkened with resolve. He believes he holds all the power, but he has underestimated you, and he has underestimated me. Anna looked at him in disbelief. But what can you do against him? I can do what he never expected, Edward replied, leaning back with calm confidence. I can stand beside you. We can gather proof. A child's blood does not lie. A court can demand a paternity test. His denial will crumble under evidence. And if he dares threaten you again, I will bring every resource I have against him. Anna's breathing quickened. But Rodrigo, my husband, if he learns the truth, he will despise me. He will leave. Edward paused. His voice softened. That is a risk. But he deserves truth, Anna. Lies protect no one. You may lose his trust, yes, but you may also find mercy in his love. And even if he struggles to forgive, you will still have protection, dignity, and justice for your child. Anna pressed her face into her hands. How can I confess this to him? He has always been loyal, always faithful, and Edward reached across the small table, gently lowering her hands. Anna, you are not beyond forgiveness. What matters now is courage. Courage to face what has been hidden and to choose a future built on truth. She looked at him with despair. And if he abandons me? Then you will not stand alone, Edward answered firmly. I promise you that. Silence lingered. The ticking of a nearby clock filled the room. Anna wiped her tears with trembling fingers. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a world where she might not carry her burden alone. After a long pause, she whispered, I don't want to live in fear anymore. I don't want my child to grow up in shadows. Edward nodded. Then it is decided. We begin today. I will call a lawyer I trust. Together we will prepare. Carlos will not silence you. Anna inhaled shakily. But what of Rodrigo? When do I tell him? Edward's gaze softened. Not yet. First, let us build strength, legal strength, proof, protection. When you speak, You must do so knowing you cannot be destroyed by his threats. Only then will you find the words to tell your husband. Anna closed her eyes, tears slipping once more. But these were different. They carried relief. The crushing solitude of her secret was broken. Someone now shared her battle. Edward rose, straightening his suit. You need rest. Afterward, I'll make the calls. In 48 hours, we will begin to turn this tide. Anna looked up at him, her voice trembling. Why are you doing this for me? I am only your servant. Edward placed a hand over his chest. Because injustice must be fought, no matter who suffers it. And because you are not just a servant, Anna. You are a woman, a mother. And both you and your child deserve protection. For the first time in months, Anna's lips curved into the faintest smile. A fragile smile, yes, but one born of hope. The day passed in uneasy silence. Anna rested in one of the guest rooms, her body weak but her spirit strangely lighter. For the first time in months, she had spoken her truth. Though fear still lingered, hope now flickered like a fragile flame. Edward kept his word. That same afternoon, he contacted a trusted lawyer, explaining the situation without names at first, then revealing everything with grim detail. The lawyer promised discretion and assured him that legal measures could be taken, proof could be demanded, protection offered. When Edward returned to check on Anna, he found her sitting by the window, watching the golden light of evening settle over the garden. She looked calm, though her eyes still bore traces of tears. Sir, she whispered as he entered, I keep thinking of Rodrigo, of the moment he will learn. My heart trembles. Edward sat beside her, his tone steady. Truth always demands courage. You cannot delay it forever, but you will not face it unprepared. When the time comes, you will have strength behind you. Anna clasped her hands over her belly. Do you truly believe he could forgive me? Edward paused. I do not know. Forgiveness is a mystery, but love has surprised me more than once in my life. Perhaps it will surprise you too. Tears welled again, though softer this time. And if it doesn't? Then you will still have dignity, Edward answered, and your child will grow with protection and justice. That is worth fighting for. The room fell quiet. Only the sound of birds outside carried through the open window. Anna breathed deeply, her shoulders releasing some of the weight they had carried for so long. Thank you, she whispered, for listening, for believing me when he said no one ever would. Edward's gaze softened. He was wrong, Anna. You are not invisible. Your voice matters. And now it will be heard. Night slowly descended. As lamps were lit across the mansion, Anna felt a shift within herself. The fear had not vanished, but it no longer ruled her. Her secret was no longer hers alone. Before retiring, Edward stood by the door, his silhouette framed by the lamplight. Rest now. Tomorrow, a new battle begins, but you will not face it alone. Anna nodded, her heart beating with a rhythm she had not felt in months. Hopeful, steady, alive. She pressed her hand gently against her stomach, whispering to the life within, You will not be born into fear, my child. Not anymore. The mansion grew quiet as the night deepened. In the stillness, Anna drifted into sleep, her breathing calm, her face softened by relief. For the first time in many weeks, her dreams carried not terror, but a faint vision of tomorrow, a tomorrow where truth could shine, where justice could stand, where love might still endure. And though the road ahead would be hard, one truth remained certain: she was no longer alone.